politics, religion, and the fight for power. That means it is time for Shogun. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Entertainment. And here we are with the first episode, the premiere episode review of Shogun. I watched episode 1 shortly after it was released, and honestly, I was shocked at how good the premiere was and how good it looked. Now, Shogun is on FX, and FX is a big network, there's no doubt about that, but it's not the biggest, especially when you compare it to HBO and the bigger budgets that they tend to give their shows. Let's take Game of Thrones, for example. A lot of people couldn't contemplate what that show would look like on a different network due to the reduced budget that it would get and the fact that it just wouldn't look as good. The Walking Dead. A lot of people have said, how good would The Walking Dead be and how much different would The Walking Dead be if it was on HBO and they had the bigger budget. So HBO, when it comes to networks, seems to be the granddaddy of them all. But this Shogun show looks amazing on FX. I think everything about the pilot, I really enjoyed it. It looked like movie quality, and it's not often you get that with FX. So straight away, the set looked good, everything looked good. The locations look good, the sets look good, the characters look good, the costumes look good, the visuals look good. Every single thing looked good in the premiere, so it's getting a thumbs up from me. Anyway, let's talk about what Shogun is actually about. So, the show is set in feudal Japan. It charts the collision of two ambitious men from different worlds and a mysterious female samurai. So, first of all, we have John Blackthorne, a risk-taking English sailor who ends up shipwrecked in Japan, a land and culture that he is unfamiliar with. Secondly, we have Lord Toranaga, a shrewd and powerful daimyo at odds with his own dangerous and political rivals. And finally, Lady Mariko, a woman with infallible skills but dishonourable family ties who must prove her value and allegiance. So those are the three main characters. But let's get into the review. So we start the episode with the Englishman, John Blackthorne. He's out in the ocean on his ship. They started off with a lot of ships, a big crew, and now they're down to the bare bones. One ship remains. John Blackthorne is the pilot, but the captain of the ship has given up and he essentially doesn't think they're going to make it to land. He thinks they're going to starve out there. Essentially, he kind of blames himself as the captain and he feels like he's responsible for the death of so many men, and he's just not willing to go on with that anymore, and he takes the cowardly way out, and Blackthorne doesn't appreciate that. He gives him the gun, he leaves the cabin, and then the next thing we hear, a blast. So automatically that's it, done. The captain is gone, and I guess this puts John Blackthorne in charge of the ship. We see a Japanese man singing to himself as he walks across the rocky coastline. He sees the ship approaching the shore, so he signals for the Japanese armed forces. They go on to the ship, they board the ship, and the soldiers are left wondering who the hell these Dutch/English men are. Elsewhere, we see a group of horses riding to the countryside of Osaka, and we get introduced to Lord Toranaga. He attends Osaka Castle to have a meeting with the Council of Regents. So essentially, we have 5 regents who are in joint power until the heir of the Japanese throne comes of age. So the previous leader of Japan passed away. His son is not old enough to lead, so therefore the Council of Regents are in charge. However, the other 4 council members do not trust Lord Toranaga, and they essentially want to vote him out. They want to kill him and basically take over. They have no intention of handing over their power to the previous leader's son. They just want to have the power themselves. They want to rule Japan, and they're planning on getting rid of Lord Toranaga to do it. Back on the ship, the Japanese take Blackthorne off his ship, they bring him to shore. The rest of his men are left there because he's the leader, so they want answers from him. Now they need to get a translator because none of them speak English. They find a translator, but unfortunately for John Blackthorne, that translator is a Christian, but he's not a Protestant Christian, he's a Catholic Christian. Therefore, Blackthorn doesn't believe that he can translate properly for him, and he's kind of right. His suspicions were true. The Catholic translator basically says that John Blackthorn is a pirate, he's a bad man, we need to kill him. Blackthorn spits on the ground at the shoes of the translator. He says, "He cannot speak for me," and it was pretty damn good, so I enjoyed that. The translator is adamant that they need to kill Blackthorn, but Lord Yabushi wants to keep Blackthorn alive. He is Lord of Aizu, the Kanto region, and he is loyal. He serves Toranaga. But does he serve Toranaga? Because we're led to believe that he will change sides depending on who he believes is going to be victorious. So he tells the Catholic translator that you're not going to kill Blackthorn, but allows them to kill another member of the ship. So Blackthorn is taken away, he gets a wash, he gets a bath, and what we see next is pretty damn sick. So one of Blackthorn's men is taken from the ship, and they're essentially boiled alive. They're like steamed alive in this big cauldron, and obviously there's like fire underneath it, and it's like just filled with water, and they essentially boil him from within. And it's sick, man. You just see him melting, screaming obviously for his life, and eventually, after I don't know how long, he just like keeps bashing his head off the side just to kill himself. So yeah, that was really, really sick and a gruesome death for sure. The next day, Blackthorn is going to be transported to Osaka by Yabushi so that he can be delivered to Lord Toranaga. However, we get introduced to a Spanish sailor who is sailing for the Portuguese by the name of Rodriguez, and I really like the introduction of Rodriguez. He's funny, he's charismatic, he's a lot of banter with John Blackthorn. They both speak English, so for the first time we're seeing John Blackthorn being able to interact with people from Japan other than just shouting and screaming. Yeah, there was the Catholic translator, but he didn't really speak for Blackthorn, and neither does Rodriguez, essentially, because he's a Spaniard working with the Portuguese. But you just feel like Rodriguez is, maybe because they're both sailors, have got that in common, but you do feel like Blackthorn and Rodriguez, even though they're both enemies, they definitely get along better, and they've got stuff in common. The sailing stuff, I guess, they've got in common. So yeah, they set sail, but there's like really rough storms, and unfortunately Rodriguez is thrown overboard. Blackthorn wants to save him, and Yabushi agrees because he believes that the Spaniard is valuable. So they manage to rescue the Spaniard. The next day, John goes to visit him, but it turns out that the Spaniard has been reading the manuscripts from the ship, and he discovers that John Blackthorn is a pirate, and he says that he is going to hand over this information and that John will essentially die in Japan. John Blackthorn tries to hit him over the head, but the Spaniard points a gun at him, and he's like, nah, not today, Blackthorn. So then John is taken to Lord Toranaga. We get introduced to Mariko. Mariko is going to be the translator because she is trying to improve her Portuguese, and she's going to be translating for the barbarian. That's what they're calling John Blackthorn. They're calling him the barbarian because they just think he's this barbaric guy that came to their shores just shipwrecked, and you know, they don't think he's got any class. They think he's like a low value human being, so he's been called the barbarian. We also learn a little bit about Mariko. Her whole family was killed in the past. She's like the only member remaining from her blood, so she wants to commit seppuku, which in Japan is basically committing suicide by cutting your abdomen and belly. However, she's not been granted permission from Lord Toranaga. Lord Toranaga then tells her that he's assigning her an important mission to give her faith, to give her a reason to live on. He wants Mariko to be the translator for the barbarian. Apparently her English is pretty good, but she could do with improving it, and if she carries this out for Lord Toranaga, then he will grant her permission to commit seppuku and kill herself so she can be with her family. The episode then comes to an end with Blackthorn arriving in Osaka. He is taken to Lord Toranaga, to who he bows down to, and that is how the premiere finishes. So yeah, it comes to a close with Blackthorn just bowing down to Lord Toranaga, I guess, in hope that he will be spared. So yeah, really good premiere. Some of the characters I think are fantastic. I especially enjoyed Blackthorn's interactions with the Spanish sailor, Rodriguez, who's working for the Portuguese. I just think it flowed a little bit better because they both spoke English. But yeah, overall, really good premiere. I enjoyed it. I think Blackthorn is the standout character. For me, he's head and shoulders above everyone else. And that's not saying that I don't like the rest of the cast. I do, but I just think the performance here from John Blackthorn in this premiere was fantastic. And maybe we'll see some other standout performances from the other cast members as the show goes on. But for episode 1, absolutely nailed it. I was a big fan. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, really good premiere, and hopefully the rest of the episodes continue in this fashion. And if it does, then we could be looking at one of the best TV series that we've seen in a long time. So yeah, great episode. Enjoyed it. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I will catch you guys in the next one. Going to do death predictions as well. So yeah, looking forward to that. I know it's written and based on a novel, but I'm still going to do death predictions anyway. If you've read the novel and you know who dies, then that's fine. I'm not disputing that. That's great. But for those of us who haven't read the novel, for those of us that are only watching the TV series, I'm going to do a death prediction video and we can see who lives and who dies. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'll catch you in the next one. Been Fog Entertainment. Thanks for watching and peace.